Reddit versus Pinterest. Which is the better stock to buy for 2025 and beyond? I'm going to answer that question in this video, comparing these two across revenue, cash flow, profit margin, and forecasted earnings per share valuation for next year. Interestingly enough, the social media business, or what I like to call the user generated content business model, is a really attractive business model, one that Meta Platforms has proven to be incredibly lucrative. People like you and me create all the content on the platform, and the platform generates profits by showing advertisements to people engaging with the platform. It's been lucrative if you look at Meta Platforms and the cash flows and profits that it generates at scale. So companies like Pinterest and Reddit are trying to replicate that success. So I'll evaluate these two and determine which one I think is better for 2025 and beyond. I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/parkev for the 10 best stocks to buy now. So comparing on revenue, you'll notice Pinterest has demonstrated strong growth over the years. 3.5 billion in trailing 12-month revenue. It's roughly triple the size of Reddit in terms of revenue. Reddit at 1.122 billion. Reddit is smaller in terms of revenue, but also in terms of daily active users or monthly active users. But the key element there is that it's still growing. Reddit was one of the few social media companies, or I think the only social media company in the latest quarterly update when we got all of the earnings reports. Snap, Meta Platforms, Pinterest all failed to generate any kind of meaningful growth from North America, from the US and Canada. And those are the most lucrative users for advertisers because their uh, capita per income is so much higher, or the income per capita is so much higher. These individuals have higher purchasing power than folks from other parts of the world, less developed parts of the world. And so advertisers are willing to spend more money to influence the purchasing decisions of people in North America, specifically in US and Canada. And if you want to get narrower, in the US. And so growth in that region, user growth in that region is very lucrative. And Reddit was the only one to deliver meaningful growth. They added millions of monthly active users in the most recent quarter from that region. And so investors are understandably more excited about the growth prospects of Reddit compared to all of the other platforms, including Meta Platforms, Pinterest, Snap, etc. Now, when you compare these two on operating profit margin, we see volatility here, ups and downs for these two. Pinterest has recently turned profitable on the bottom line on a trailing 12-month basis, 3.3% operating margin, a nice improvement over the years. While Reddit has failed to generate that kind of improvement in profitability, they are still losing significant sums on the bottom line, primarily due to stock-based compensation, as I'm going to share with you in the next slide here. If you compare cash flow from operations to sales, they are positive. They're both positive. And Reddit is demonstrating incredible growth. And the big difference here is that when you look at cash flow, you're excluding stock-based compensation because that's not a cash expense. That's an expense, but it's not a cash expense. You're giving people stock options, stock grants, and compensation as a percentage of the business instead of giving them compensation in money. And so when you exclude that, these companies turn positive. And Pinterest has demonstrated excellent growth, and so has Reddit. Pinterest number is almost 3 times as large as Reddit, but you can see the trend of improvement more significant for Reddit. The slope is improving more rapidly for Reddit, 10.21% versus 27, closer to 28% for Pinterest. The return on invested capital measures how good a company is at using investors' money, investing it into products and services that generate profits. Pinterest at 7.13% has demonstrated incredible improvement over the last 6 years or so. Reddit is also improving quickly, but still negative 55% in this category. This metric might be one of the more important metrics if you're evaluating companies. And the more time you have on this metric, the better. So, because we don't have very much data on Reddit, it's a more recently publicly traded company. This metric doesn't have that much informational weight as it would if it was a publicly traded company for longer and we had more data. But what you want to see in this metric, even if it's negative, you want to see improvement, and you want to see the company's capital. When they do deploy capital, you want to see it working out. When they make an acquisition, or when they announce that they're going to enter a new category or a new geography, a new product, a new service, you want to follow those announcements and see how they turn out. Do they turn out successful, or does management come back to you a couple of years later or a couple of quarters later and tells you, oh, you know what, that thing that we tried, it's not working. Unfortunately, we have to take a write off because of that. We're going to restructure, we're going to lay off some people, et cetera, et cetera. You don't like to see those kinds of things. What you like to hear is, we invested in such and such product thinking it was going to generate this much money. It turns out it's much better than expected. And so we're leaning in, we're doing even more. Those are the kind of things you want to hear from a company's management team when they make investments in new projects, new categories, make an acquisition, whatever expansion plan they try. You want to see it work out. And if you're following a company that repeatedly comes back to you and says, look, we tried this, it didn't work. We tried this, it didn't work. We tried this, it didn't work. You have to start asking the question, do you know what you're doing? Because I don't want to invest in a management team that continuously invests in projects that don't work out. That tells me that you don't really have this skill. You're not really skillful in being able to deploy capital. And so I don't want to give you my money to manage if you're not doing a good job managing that money. And so that's why this metric is so critical for long-term investors. All right, finally, I wanted to compare these two on valuation. And looking at the forward price to earnings ratio, you can see that Reddit is 3, 4 times more expensive than Pinterest. Reddit is trading at a forward price to earnings of 59 compared to just 16 for Pinterest. And you can see the valuation was closer at the start of the year, and Reddit really separated itself in recent quarters. And one of the reasons is that growth in the US and Canada that Reddit is demonstrating, while others have failed to demonstrate that kind of growth. They've been reporting flat numbers in the US and Canada. Still, I think this premium is overdone here. I think Reddit is, should be trading at a more expensive valuation according to this metric because of their rate of improvement across several categories. But I think this much of a premium is too much. So if I was to pick between these two for 2025 and beyond, I would pick Pinterest as the better growth stock here. Hey everyone, I'm excited to announce that my book is finally available for sale. I've been working on it for more than a year now, so I'm really excited to finally share this with you now. It goes through my framework for evaluating stocks. Some of you often ask why I like this stock or why I like the other stock, and this framework provides you the things that I look at when I'm evaluating stocks. I've added the link in the description below.